Hi everyone, my name is Erin. Welcome back to my channel. Once again, I am joined by Sunny, who likes to sniff around my bookcases. So today, I'm here to talk to you about the state of my TBR. It's been a couple of weeks. Things have changed drastically, and I want to share that with you today. So at the end of my last video, I think my TBR was down to maybe 75, and I had purchased some books and I was feeling okay, and then I was just in the mood. It was the right time to do a very large unhaul. So that unhaul consisted of a ton of books, and currently, even though I've purchased some more things, my TBR sits at 33. So a huge unhaul. And I mean, the books are still in my home because I can't really take them anywhere at the moment. So I do have this option to sort of pick some books back up if I, feel the need or the want to read them. But it was a lot more about taking the pressure off of myself, to read the 10 books that have been given to me by other people that I didn't really want to read, that were sitting on my shelves for, 2, 3, 4 years even. So it was a lot of that kind of thing, and then really sort of trying to focus in on the stories that I love. And were all of these books that I had on my TBR stories that I would love? Probably not. And there are a few cases where, they could be the anomaly, they could be the exception. But for me, for my own sort of journey, I decided to set all of those books aside, and before I go ahead and get rid of them, maybe I'll do another pick through just to see if anything has changed. But for now, the books that I'm most excited about and the books that I'm really eager to pick up are the ones that remain, and there's 33 of them. So I'd like to share with you the books that I've read since I last talked to you. There's 3 of them, and then I'll talk a little bit about the books that I am currently reading and the books that I have hauled. So, like I said, I've read 3 books since we last spoke. The first one that I finished was a book I was currently reading the last time we spoke, and that was The Trial by Franz Kafka. This is an interesting story. So we follow Yosef Kar as he wakes up one morning arrested, and he's not sure what for, and he isn't arrested in, the sense that we know it today. He's still able to go about his life, but he's under arrest, and he is defending himself against a crime that he doesn't know he's committed or doesn't know what he's being charged for. And it's this sort of look at the legal system and kind of pushing it to an extreme a little bit. This was okay. I don't really know if my life is any different now that I've read it. I mean, I've read it. I would like to give Metamorphosis a try, in the future, as maybe another go at Kafka. But I do think I maybe would have benefited more from maybe reading this in a group, or reading this in a class and studying it. I think it would have had a better impact on me, but I've read that one now. The next book that I read was Empire of Wild by Cherie Demeline. This is her second novel. This is more of an adult novel, whereas The Mare of Thieves was young adult. In this book, we follow Joan, whose husband has gone missing, and she's not handling it well. It's been about a year since he went missing. A lot of her family seems to think that he just left her, and that's that, and there isn't anything else to it. But Joan gets drunk one night and ends up in the parking lot of a Walmart, and when she wakes up, there is this big, beautiful revival tent. And she goes in. She's not sure what's drawn to her there, but she goes in, and there's her husband as the pastor of the church, and the reverend, and he does not recognize her, and he thinks that she's sort of just drunk and out of her mind, and no one really believes her that her husband Victor is there. And there's this indigenous story about something called the Rawgaroo, and the Rawgaroo is this wolf-like creature that stalks the forest, and you're likely to get caught by the Rawgaroo if you are hateful or morally bad, and or if you're just out at the wrong time. So it's this story of the Rawgaroo is sort of used to keep children and people humble and good, and kind of makes them listen to their parents, So a few people have expressed maybe fear that a Rawgaroo has gotten Victor, and this is Joan's quest to get him back. The story is really great. I think it's quite gripping and informative, but I will say that, much like The Marrow Thieves to me read like a first novel, a debut, this also reads like a second novel. There are still a few things that were a little bit jarring, like the pacing of the story, and just some of the ways in which the characters thought one thing and then in the very next scene thought another, that just sort of felt not entirely fleshed out. I do still think this is an incredible story. I enjoyed my time with it, but I do have to say that it does sort of feel like a second novel, and the ending is quite ambiguous, leads you to believe there might be a sequel, but when I think of what a sequel would look like, it wouldn't really be much different than the journey that Joan went on here. So I don't know if that's something that's going to happen. Maybe it would be different and wonderful. I would say another gripe that I had, and maybe this is because I was thinking about the plot holes in Fargo Season 2, but there were a couple instances in the story where very dramatic things happen, and they're just sort of left unresolved. And maybe that's the point. Not everything has to be resolved, but it was something that kind of was a bit jarring to me as well. But I do highly recommend this, as well as The Marrow Thieves. Though they feel like first and second novels, I still think that they're incredible for what they are, and they're really thrilling, engaging stories. So I would highly recommend Empire of Wild, and I'm glad that I finally read that. And then the last book is, I think, another one I was talking about in my last video, which was Welcome to the Monkey House by Kurt Vonnegut. This is a collection of short stories. This was put together in 98, so all the stories are from the 60s and such. Some of them are better than others. Some are very classic Vonnegut. If you've read Slaughterhouse-Five or Cat's Cradle, you would know what I mean. Some of the stories were a little bit outdated, which happens in a collection and happens with authors. I wouldn't recommend this as a place to start with Vonnegut. I think his short fiction, at least in this collection, is an acquired taste. I think you have to actively enjoy reading Vonnegut and understand his humor and the cadence that he has when he writes to maybe get the subtleties in these stories. A lot of them, when I explain them out loud, they seem rather raunchy or sexist or, mansplainy, but I think that when you read them for yourself, and it's not in the context of someone explaining a 10-page short story and trying to get all the nuances in it, the humor and the the joy of Vonnegut shines through. So if you've read Vonnegut before, I would recommend this, but I would not recommend this as a place to start because of Vonnegut's style. But I loved the stories in there. The titular story actually is probably the weirdest to explain out loud, but was one of my favorites. So now I want to talk about the 2 books I'm currently reading, and then I will talk about the books that I have purchased. So I'm currently reading 2 books. The first is Medicine Walk by Richard Wagamese. This is the story of Franklin, who's 16, and he has sort of been tasked with taking his father on a last journey type situation. So his father, who has been estranged from him all of his life, sort of calls him and explains that he has to do this for him. And hopefully during this walk to his father's inevitable grave, where Franklin will have to bury him, hopefully they can sort of reconnect. His father has a lot to answer for, and Franklin is very smart, and he's not really here for bullshit, which I can really appreciate. This book is hitting me in a way that I sort of knew would happen, but I thought this would be a book that I flew through, and I did at first, but now that they're on this journey and Franklin's father is trying to atone, not necessarily atone, but trying to explain why he acted the way he did, and kind of leaning into his upbringing and how that affected the way he then didn't bring up his own son, is kind of hitting me a little bit close. I am estranged from one of my parents, and it's recent and it's not easy to cope with. So this book, I hope, will maybe give me a bit of comfort, but it is sort of slow and difficult. And I find that as I read things and how they go through things kind of reflects the way I feel for the next few days, and has me thinking about my own life and sort of what happened to get me to where I am, which I think is really interesting. The writing, aside from personal experience here, the writing is beautiful. Richard Wagamese can make you feel like you're in a forest within a paragraph, and just the tone and the flow of the writing, like, you want to protect Franklin from the jump before you even really know anything that's happened to him, and that feeling of wanting to protect him, but realizing that he has grown, fully able to sustain himself, and to protect himself, and to just live his life is incredible. So I would highly recommend this, even though I'm only about halfway through. I would recommend, because I think that this has a lot to offer as a story. And it's just stunning. And then the other book that I'm currently reading is a book that I saved from my first try chapter tag, and that is The House of the Dead by Fyodor Dostoevsky. So I saved this because it was quite readable. I read about 40 pages. I'm now about 100 pages in. It's still readable. This is the story of, it's kind of autofiction. It's loosely based on Fyodor Dostoevsky's time in a Siberian work camp in 1850. So he was sent there for a political controversy or a conspiracy, and so he was sent for 4 years, and the character is sent there for 10. And it's mostly just like this. It reads almost like nonfiction, but it is fiction, and it's just sort of like the ins and outs of this work camp, and what's expected, and the kind of people who are there, and the corruption that happens, and I'm just finding it fascinating. So I'm hoping to continue and finish this sometime soon, because like I said, I'm just shocked at how readable it is. And then I would like to share with you some of the books that I've bought, because there's quite a few. So the first book that I bought during all of this, after getting Number 9 Dream from my friend Val, was I bought a copy of Moby Dick in the Penguin English Library. That's a book that I've read, so it's not really counted on my TBR. But I also bought The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Now, I've been thinking about purchasing this book for a while, but Jennifer from Jennifer Brooks talks so highly of this book and this mystery that I finally just bit the bullet and I purchased it. This cover is stunning. It's about a ghostly female figure, and then the terrifying world of crime and insanity that befalls this man in the Victorian era after he sees this woman. So I'm thrilled. I know that is there a movie? I feel like there's a movie, not to be mistaken with The Woman in Black. But I'm really excited to get to this at some point. Another book that I've purchased is called Disfigured, and it's by Amanda Leduc. This is on fairy tales, disability, and making space. So this is nonfiction that deals with sort of the narrative that fairy tales portray on people who have disabilities or who are, disfigured in some sense of the word. I know that Jen Campbell talks a lot about this on her channel, but it's not really something that I have delved into. Amanda Leduc is a local author to me. A couple of people that I know have kind of been around this book, and I was interested in it. So Amanda Leduc has cerebral palsy, and she's sort of taking a look through her eyes and through the eyes of other people and through society at what the implications of fairy tales, where the bad guy is always disabled or disfigured, and what that means and how people grow up in society and how that then leads to policy and accessibility and things like that. So I'm about halfway through and I'm really, really liking it. It's quite readable and it's not very dry in terms of nonfiction. There's a lot of, it's part memoir, part history, part, science, I don't know, part, essays on fairy tales. So it's a lot of different things mashed up into one, and I think that it is so far very, it's achieving what it set out to do, very informative, and I'm really enjoying it. I'll check back when I'm finished, anything could happen. And then I bought 3 books by Indigenous authors that I'm really excited about reading. So the first book that I have is Birdy by Tracy Lindbergh. This is the story of Birdy, or Bernice, who is sort of on this quest from Alberta to BC to sort of find answers about who she is, about sort of what has happened in her life. Another sort of journey book. So I might think about reading this on the heels of Medicine Walk, just because it kind of deals with not necessarily the same topic, but a similar sort of journey, quest to figure things out about your life, and that's sort of where I'm at right now. I've heard good things about this. I've also heard some mixed things about this, which makes me a little bit wary, but this has been on my radar for quite some time, and again, I just thought, it's time to buy it. You've been thinking about it for a long time. Once I sort of got my TBR down to books that I actually really, really wanted to read, it kind of made this space for me to sort of bulk up the books that I've been putting off buying because I felt like I shouldn't, because my TBR was too big. So these are all books that I've been thinking about for a long time. So I'm excited to get to this, and like I said, I might purchase it. I might read it on the heels of Medicine Walk. The next book that I got is Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. Again, a book that I've heard a ton about. This was getting a lot of praise in 2018 when it was published. This is about, his name is Johnny. Obviously. So he sort of has been living off of the reservation and is struggling and is battling a lot of things, and he gets called back to the reservation because of a funeral, and I think it's sort of the journey of going there, what it means to go back, and all of the maybe the complicated things that come with that. So again, another book of sort of introspection and examining the way exterior factors affect your life, and that's where I'm at. So don't be surprised if I read all of these books quickly. And then the last book that I got is Monkey Beach by Eden Robinson. Now, I haven't really spoken too much about how much I really didn't like Son of a Trickster. I filmed this 30-minute rant review that I tried to manipulate into something that was not as awful as I made it sound, because I don't think that the book is truly awful. I just think that the book didn't live up to my expectations of it. And I think, Eden Robinson had something in her story. That story was just not for me. So I decided to pick up something else by Eden Robinson, give her another try, see if maybe it was just where I was at in my life and feeling the pressures of reading for Canada Reads and all that, and I want to just wait for the right time to read this one. This is the story of another person named Jimmy who vanishes, and his sister sort of spends time around these beaches, specifically Monkey Beach, in order to maybe find meaning about why he's gone, to find him. And I'm sure there's a bit of magical realism in this, the same way there was in Son of a Trickster, but maybe, there isn't all this pressure to love it and anything like that. So maybe when the time is right, I'll be able to read this and love Eden Robinson, because like I said, there was something in her story that kept me moving through it, even though Son of a Trickster didn't end up being all that I had hoped it was. So all of that to say that my TBR is now at 33, and I'm really excited, and hopefully in a couple of weeks it will be under 33, under 30. That's a possibility. Dewey's 24-hour readathon is this weekend, and because I feel a lot less pressure from my own unread bookshelf, I'm theming my day for rereads. So thrilled about that. So excited. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know about your TBRs. If you guys want, a video kind of talking through my process of how I ended up getting rid of everything, let me know. I don't think I'm going to do like a video of an unhaul. I just think that might be counterproductive, especially because I haven't read any of the books that I'm getting rid of. So I won't do that, but if you ever need, help with unhauling or looking at your shelves, like, my social media is down below. I will talk to you soon with another video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!